Good morning, all of you. We have a great conversation coming up. You go to the latest government-owned document and agreed with the IMF on progress so far following the receipt of the last tranche of that IMF money. There's every indication on page 10 that is saying that the government of Ghana, led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, the vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who also chairs the government economic management team, that the VAT on electricity could be brought back. But why is that even an option in the first place when they also indicate in that documentation that there's a pushback? And so what do you make of this? Millicent Apeku of the Ashaman constituency, today is your birthday. I wish you all the best. Chiamiga Apeku, also Apeke, of the Awudome traditional area. I wish you all the best, as well as Professor Senna of the Presbyterian University. I wish you all the best as well. Please, let me tell you about who we have this morning. We have joining us on stream a distinguished analyst in economics and finance and politics as well. And he's joining us this morning from Kumasi on stream. And thank you so much for joining us. We're grateful. And Dr. Friye has joined us. Good morning to you, Doc.
Good morning, Roland.
Great. It's good to have you. I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation with you.
Yes, it's my pleasure, and greetings to your cherished viewers as well.
All right. So, Dr. Samuel Efriye is joining us for this conversation. A man who, at the beginning of my career, I knew as an anti-graft person, anti-corruption crusader at the time. He used to head what they call Transparency International, now the Ghana Integrity Initiative, metamorphosed into a mainstream politician, became a director of communication for the ruling MPP, before then Member of Parliament for Adentan, currently with Alan Chairmantin's Movement for Change, clad in yellow with a crest of a butterfly emblem this morning, Yabuabing Asamoah. YB, good morning to you.
Good morning, Robert.
Great. Not everybody see you, they know that you are Director of Communication for MPP, but I know you're yellow now. Good morning. I hope you're well. How have you been doing?
Very well.
Okay, great.
Yes, I'm doing very, very well because now the options are open. It's quite clear that the political space demands differences.
Okay.
And that difference is what we are working on.
Great, great.
Yes.
And then also, Lawyer Duji has joined us as well. For those who are joining us on stream, make sure you share the stream. Let's have a good conversation. But let me take you through what the IMF has been saying, because already before we even had this document posted.
We've decided to...
Oh, okay. Good morning.
guard me. Okay, so good morning to my Lene Senior. Good morning to the respected political analyst, and economic analyst, sorry, and our cherished viewers. Roland, I want to invite you. Saturday, we are launching our campaign in Tamale. We are starting
NDC?
from, yeah,
formally?
Formally.
Oh, okay.
To kickstart.
Why are you launching it in Tamale?
The pathway to victory. It's symbolic, and I must say, it's like, I mean, we are going back to where it's supposed to be. Usually they will say in Tamale, they are going to receive everybody as we prepare the campaign formally. And I want to invite my senior here as well to join, leave the butterfly, come under the umbrella. Let's get away with what we have now. Because what we have now is a complete disaster.
Roland, you know why I'm laughing?
Join us, and then
there was a time when I wouldn't use an umbrella if it was really cats and dogs.
Right, you know.
I was empty.
But today,
to come under the umbrella.
What did you say? You said there was a time.
There was a time, very recently, and for several years, when I wouldn't use an umbrella at all, even if it was raining cats and dogs, because I was against the NDC entirely. So I wouldn't use an umbrella under any circumstances.
Not even an MPP inscribed
under any circumstances would I go under an umbrella. And can you imagine Edwige is inviting me to come under an umbrella? so it won't happen.
In fact, that's why they say
I'm flying. It's a butterfly. I'm flying.
Time changes.
Look at New Day. New Day has a butterfly flying all the time.
TV3 New Day.
TV3 New Day.
Anyway.
I didn't see this one coming.
Okay. There's a hashtag that Johnny used this morning. Let me just refresh you. For my Brenda, please keep reminding me. Hashtag. Well, so, okay, Nana once said, hashtag Johnny's Bites. Hashtag I'll slap somebody. Well, it's just for us in the studio. Please make sure you share the stream. Let's have a call. Let me take you through what the IMF apparently have been thinking. Before we even chance on this document, fuel prices had already gone to the roof, the highest we've seen in a number of years as well. So the IMF, well, in that document, has agreed with the government of Ghana, and we're told there is a PCPEC, the post-COVID response we're having to take us through the DDEP, and then also all those debt restructuring with our external creditors as we have them. So we'll put that on the screen for you to get to know what really the issues are and why government has been saying that they intend bringing back. So on the revenue side in that document, and this was issued in July 2024, the latest report. So on the revenue side, the implementation of VAT on residential electricity was suspended due to strong social resistance. The government of Ghana and the IMF then continues to say the authorities are committed to implementing this measure when the inflation dynamics are more conducive. And we know that the inflation, we're told, has been coming down. So in the meantime, following consultation with staff, the authorities introduced alternative measures to offset the revenue loss, including in the areas of foreign income, blah, 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 audit of it. The Ghana revenue is also taking additional administrative measures to ensure the revenue measures in the 2024 budget deliver the expected results. And so that will mean that, so that would mean ultimately when the measures die down in terms of the resistance, we're going to have VAT on electricity because it's one of the tax handles that needs to be implemented or introduced for government to meet its revenue target. Already, we'll tell you about the price increment we've seen in electricity recently, and we'll put that on the screen for you so that you get to know by way of the pricing. And it's no mean an issue for ordinary people who tend to do the transportation. In terms of driving their own cars, using that to ferry goods and services, etc. Now, we'll ask the economists what they think about this. If it has to be reintroduced, what does it mean? So far, the impact of fuel prices increment. In January, we had a litre being 11 cedis 24 pesos. Diesel was going for 11.26. By July, this is what we're seeing, 15.10. And then for diesel, 15.24. We're in dire straits. It's not like anybody saying it. All of us are feeling it. How should we approach this? So there's additional cost differential, 17 Ghana, and you do the calculation since all the period, and you have to be worried if you're not as a consumer. Organized labor just recently, and these are the taxes, levies, and regulatory margins we have. We have the energy debt recovery levy on the fuel you buy, the road fund levy, energy fund levy, price stabilization recovery levy, sanitation and pollution levy, energy sector recovery levy, primary distribution margin, boss margin, fuel marking margin, special petroleum tax, UPPF, distribution promotion margin. Of course, that's not there available or not there at all. And I don't know how we may look. Perhaps maybe the great transformational plan will do us some favors. And Yabwabing, how do you look at all this and say the ordinary Ghanaian is well off? If you have to just oppose that with a refrain of what government says, the economy is on a path of recovery.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to your vast audience, local and international. The bottom line is that we are not transforming the economy. A lack of transformation, which is what we need, is the bother, because all the IMF measures are based on tax to pay your debts, tax to spend. None of it is about generating revenue. All the revenue that is expected to be generated is based on taxes. And in that way, you can't transform. And that is why you find John Mahama administration that essentially ended up in IMF in spite of the new oil inflows, because they had public sector arrears, they had a currency collapse, they had doomsday, and they were still going the path of taxes when they ended up with the IMF. Now, what were the IMF's resolutions proposed? Cut down on the financial sector, do something about this, cut down on certain expenditures of government, and impose more taxes to meet your balances. Then the MPP comes in, and MPP is going the same route. The inability to transform the economy means that whatever you do to attempt to stabilize the economy is short term. It will not survive. The economy will not be resilient as long as you continue to do the same things you did before, tax and spend. So it's a musical chairs thing. Now, worst of all, the MPP has presided over meltdown. The economy is in serious meltdown, to the point that at some point, when you put together all the bills of those who were off government balance sheet, we had a debt to GDP ratio of 105 over 100. Essentially, if we put all our money into paying our debts, we'll still be short of 5. That is where we were. Now, when you take off the other things from the balance sheet, then you drop to around 70 something. And then they ended up saying that we should do a program that will bring us down to 55 relatively. So what do we have? We have a cost of living crisis. We have doomsday again. We have a haircut forever for the very first time. And then worst of all, the same IMF that we've gone to before, we are back at IMF, and the proposition is taxes. Look at the thing you displayed. Beyond the petroleum taxes, all the other taxes that the IMF is proposing that they put in. So the question then becomes, what really is the future if you are focused on these two? They can't take you anywhere, because they don't have any plans beyond tax and spend. They don't have any plans beyond IMF stabilization policies. That is where transformation comes in. This is where the Great Transformational Plan is important, because the Great Transformational Plan intends to build an enterprise economy. An enterprise economy means that there is capital accumulation, indigenous capital accumulation. There is value addition. That is, you delve into industry, you delve into modernizing agriculture, monetizing it, you delve into improving qualitatively tourism. And when you do that, all the services associated with that, it impacts your education, because you have to turn out the right people, technicians and otherwise, to run the businesses, the factories, and all that come. It impacts your health services, because government has more. The more people who are employed, the more government will earn in terms of tax revenue to put our social services in the right direction. It opens up opportunities for everybody. And that's why when you want to do a real value addition economy, you give private sector a major role. So the Great Transformational Plan in building an enterprise economy talks about a cash and jobs economy, because the private sector will be in the forefront. The private sector has capital. The private sector can invest capital without government borrowing that capital. And government has no business borrowing all the time to provide all the services. Because government is not even good at providing those services. You just create opportunities for corruption.
Not too long ago, you were all over defending all these by way of the policy implementations and measures by the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia-led government that got us here. And comprehensively, we have to pinpoint and ask the right questions. That we got here, or how did we get here?
Yes, it's very true. So let me quickly land on the 3 other points.
Please land and answer my question.
The next one is that you have to run a lean government that only facilitates the private sector. Alan is going to run a 40-minister government. And that means all the other state agencies and otherwise will review their mandates, consolidate and strengthen for efficiency and delivery. It's all in the Great Transformational Plan. Then accountability. We have to deepen anti-corruption. That's why Alan is saying that he will constitutionally establish an office of an independent czar who will manage a consolidated anti-corruption law. All the mandates and definitions from the various rules and institutions will be brought together in one legislation and vested in a czar who have constitutional independence to prosecute corruption and matters of corruption away from the Attorney General. And then, of course, your best source of energy, the youth. All of this private sector thing we are talking about, you also want to drive the youth into the forefront of that process. So how you fund startups, how you progress startups, how you expand startups so that they integrate into the ongoing economy. So this is the transformation agenda in a broad way. But when you say
so that's what you have summarized. Now answer my question. We said we had a plethora of policies, and now we are where we are.
Yes.
And it looks like government is not backing down and even accepting that we're in great times, and so needs to reduce its expenditure.
And that is why I believe we must look at what has happened with Mr. Chematin and the MPP. That is why we must look beyond the simple things people tend to say and delve deeper. The people who have a major stake in maintaining the MPP will tell you, oh, Mr. Chematin was disgruntled, that is why he left. Why would somebody who has been gifted with certain personal traits and performance levels, who wants to serve his country with those opportunities, be bottled up and kept away by processes that really are designed to freeze him out? So he has the courage of his convictions and says, let me present myself to Ghanaians, if they so wish. Then they open up another chapter and say that, but if he had won the primary, he would have stayed in the MPP. How could he have stayed and won a primary that was skewed against him? But worst of all, the most important thing to note there, and that covers those of us who left with him, is that what would he have stayed in? The MPP that froze him out of the presidential primary is not the MPP that we all helped to start. Its principles, its fundamental values have dissipated, and it's being led in a way that clearly doesn't demonstrate that they still owe allegiance to those principles. So yes, if he had even become a presidential candidate of the current MPP, he would have had difficulties getting the people of Ghana to trust his agenda, because he would have had to distance himself from so much, which their own candidate that they foisted on Ghana is struggling to do. Their candidate goes around saying that elect me to change the policies that my government is doing. Is that not what he's going around saying? Elect me to change the policies that I am presiding over now, that I am part of now, that I helped to implement because I was in charge of the economy.
Osman Sharif, who's watching on our stream, says you haven't answered my question.
Which is?
The VAT. They said they could reintroduce it. How do we resolve this?
Yeah, but you didn't. You asked me that I was part of the policies. That's why I'm giving you a background. You didn't ask me specifically about the VAT. And the VAT is what I'm saying, that when you have a tax and spend economy, it will get you nowhere. Alan, in the Great Transformational Plan, is not going to depend on taxes. He's saying he's going to give us the lowest tax rates in Ghana. Go to page 15. Go to page 15 of the GTP. Go to page 15.
I'm there.
And he says, achieve the lowest tax rates in the ECOWAS sub-region within a period of 3 years. Yes. So what you do is that you put in measures that will reduce the dependence on taxes. How do you do that? That's why I say you accumulate capital. We also have processes in here talking about deepening capital markets and financial markets in order, that is on page 19, in order to create the catalyst that will lead to money being invested in industry, money being invested in tourism, money being invested in agriculture, so that you have real production, you have value addition. Then you don't have to depend on taxes that are not there.
I think that's very poignant. Now, Dr. Friye, what do you make of this? As an economic analyst, and you taking a look at the build-up of the tax handles that have led us here, despite all the things that government is saying, if let's say we have VAT on electricity being brought back, what would be your best advice when the government itself acknowledges with the IMF that there was a pushback?
Thank you, Roland, and my greetings to respected lawyer Ediji and also my good friend YB. I think I will need one of your manifesto, right?
The transformational plan.
Please go ahead. You said he will send it to you. Okay.
Oh, what's wrong?
All right.
works in this country.
All right. Edwige, your take on this.
Okay. So I think that we must get one thing clear. At this level and at this rate, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and the Akufo-Addo administration are determined to do only one thing. That in the unlikely event of winning, they will bring the VAT on electricity. That, for me, is the bottom line.
That is your interpretation of this agreement with the IMF?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, if you read Mr. Ken Ofori-Attah's letter announcing the VAT on electricity, the letter is clear that the only reason why they needed VAT on electricity had to do with an IMF conditionality. And we have maintained that the most expensive, excruciating IMF program that we've had to engage in since 1966 is the one that Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia entered into. And the reason is simple. They went to the IMF in an ambulance. And always remember that if you go to the hospital in an ambulance, you don't tell the doctor what he should do. He is going to force you to do certain things. How did we get here? Look, no government had gotten more money than the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration. Collectively, they have received $132 billion revenue, taxes. I am talking about grants and loans. 132 billion. Tax revenue alone, over 400 billion Ghana cedis. Now, a government that has received this colossal amount of money, you want to ask yourself, how did we end up getting to the IMF in an ambulance? Corruption, unbridled procurement, sole source procurement, to the extent that Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's own biological brother is at the receipt of over 200 million Ghana cedis, sole source contracts. Akufo-Addo told us that he is coming, as it were, to protect the public purse. What we didn't know was that he was coming to project a family and friend nepotistic government. That is what Akufo-Addo Bawumia have done. To the extent that, like, I want to repeat, Bawumia's own brother had received in excess of 200 million Ghana cedis, road contracts, Southern Command. The roads there is Bawumia's brother who is doing it.
Are you saying his brother shouldn't be operating a company?
At the time when Bawumia is the chairman of the Ghana Armed Forces Council, his direct brother becomes beneficiary of road contracts by the military. What more is conflict of interest than this? The issue is not about the brother. Prior to the brother becoming president, what was the brother doing? Was he beneficiary of sole source contracts? No. When you go to Cocoa Board, these are the matters. But what is not in doubt, Roland, is the fact that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration promised the good people of this country that we are going to move the economy from taxation to production. Today, with the benefit of power, the Akufo-Addo administration have brought more taxes, qualitatively and quantitatively. When I say quantitatively, the Akufo-Addo administration had received tax revenue more from the ordinary Ghanaian than all administration since 1957. And so a government that preached in opposition that we are coming to lessen the burden of Ghanaians, we are coming to make things easier for you. Rather, what they have done is to burden us. Regrettably, the taxes that they are taking, one would expect that they will be used for productive ventures. I want to ask, in over 7 years, 7 months, the Akufo-Addo administration are yet to commission a hospital project started by Akufo-Addo and completed in 7 years.
What do you mean? You mean start to finish?
Yes.
But there's agenda one ongoing.
7 years. That is what we are talking about. 7 years. In fact, the only time that it became clear to Akufo-Addo that you needed more hospital was when COVID struck. And when COVID struck and they realized that the only hospitals available were the ones built by John Mahama and previous administration, Akufo-Addo in April 2020 indicated that he was going to build 88 hospitals. By December 2020, they increased it to Agenda 111. That is Akufo-Addo's record. So I want Ghanaians to appreciate one point, that if you do not know and you make the mistake of voting for no other person by Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, he is going to introduce value-added tax on electricity. And in fact, if you read the IMF document, I just want to just read it so Ghanaians will appreciate exactly where I am coming from. Roland, just a minute. Good. The IMF just issued their country report in July after the assessment of the IMF program. And this is what the report says. Paragraph 15. On the revenue side.
On page 10.
Yes. The implementation on VAT on residential electricity is expected to yield 0.17% of GDP. Was suspended due to strong social resistance. The authorities are committed to implementing. Committed. This is government officials telling the IMF that they are committed to implementing this. The only reason why they have suspended it is the backlash due to the upcoming election. So immediately you vote for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. He's going to bring this tax handle. And let nobody make the mistake. In 2019, the MPP went to Parliament and passed what is known as the VAT Amendment Act 2019 Act 1005, which imposed this value-added tax on electricity. By the reckoning, if today you are buying electricity of, say, 100 Ghana prepaid, effectively you'll be paying 121 Ghana cedis. That's effectively how much. So if you are only buying...
By way of the increment.
Yes, by way of the increment.
That's more than a 20% increment.
Yes. No, in fact, it's actually 21% that Akufo-Addo is going to impose on your electricity in the unlikely event that you vote for his protégé, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. And let nobody make this mistake. Bawumia only provides Akufo-Addo a folder for a third term. And it has always been said that the only reason why, like my senior made the point, that Ailing was freezed out of the race, is because Akufo-Addo wants somebody who will provide him security from accountability.
And how do you draw that conclusion?
Somebody who would ensure that Akufo-Addo's government will never be accountable to the good people of this country. I mean, how in God's name are you going to have a president after 8 years you not have the benefit of accountability? Every government needs the benefit of accountability. And that is why when you listen to somebody like Dr. Bawumia, he makes the point that, oh, vote for me because, listen carefully, I am the only one who will be accountable to Ghanaians. Because I'll come back to you. What Bawumia had forgotten, in 2020, they were saying 4 more for Nana. Is it the case that at the time when Bawumia said 4 more for Nana, he knew that Akufo-Addo will not be accountable? Sometimes I wonder what gets into the head of Dr. Bawumia, why he talks the way he does. Because you see, either there is a question of poverty of logic, or he doesn't think deeply related.
Poverty of logic?
Yes. Because you see, in 2020, you were telling the good people of Ghana to give Akufo-Addo 4 more years. Did you know by your reasoning, it means that Akufo-Addo was never going to be accountable to Ghana because you won't come for re-election.
You have 3 minutes to wrap up.
You won't come for re-election. And that is why sometimes the people who either write the speeches for Bawumia must encourage him to think deeply about the things that he says. Because you see, today, you notice that the kind of, excuse my language, low stock was in opposition are the things that are hurting Bawumia today. Because you are just talking. And usually when you just talk without the benefit of being, introspective, the danger is that those words come hurting you. You recall Bawumia telling the good people of this country that when in doubt, observe what? The exchange rate. What is the exchange rate today? If you speak to business people today, they'll tell you that we are doing 16 Ghana cedi to $1. How did we get here? How did we get here, Roland? And so the bottom line is that you have a government riddled with corruption, a government riddled with waste, and instead of them coming and apologizing to the people of this country, they want to gaslight us. They want us to feel that we are the cause of our own problem. Yes. They want us to feel like we are the cause of our own problem. That can never be. And so the point should be made clear that this VAT or the electricity, once again, in the unlikely event of you voting for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, he is going to bring this tax handle back. And that will be more pain for the good people of this country.
Dr. Sammy Efie has rejoined us. There was a break in the stream, and technology sometimes will give us some of these flattering indications. And so he's back on stream. Again, Dr. Efie, you take a look at what the latest IMF report is saying, based on what they have assessed, agreed with government, the tranche also given, and every indication and the conclusion being made that electricity and the cost at which we're producing and distributing it to the consumer would have to be better priced than it is. It also means that the ordinary consumer should be worried. But on the side of government and its expenditure, what ideally should be done?
Thank you very much once again, Roland, and sorry for the break. I think it's technical sometimes. Once again, I would like to also greet Lawyer Eduji as well, respectable one. And also YB.
Dr. Efie,
yes, please.
So, so far we're only seeing, if you see the television, we can't see do you understand? So please go back a bit so that we're very good. You're a professional at this. Okay.
Right.
Okay, very good. Very good. So that we have a nice portrait of you in the frame. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's okay.
Oh, please, you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
I greet all of you as well, and the opportunity given unto us. What I would like to say is that looking at what the government, I think we have not been innovative enough. We are not being innovative enough for all this while in terms of our taxes, in terms of how we make use of our resources and financing and etc. Because looking at how do we got to this stage? We got to this stage of inefficiency, about accruing a lot of debt for the energy sector as well, and also not working on our wastage in the system. For example, I think Lawyer Eduji was mentioning about waste. I'm one of those people that I think our governance system, in terms of running our system, we waste a lot of resources, because you look at even the energy wastage leakage is almost about 30%, and this is serious. And you know how this wastage go into the system, and you can testify that, Roland, the burden with a lot of when you look at all these taxes, for me, I think it will not serve the government interest to introduce this kind of taxes into the system. I think, as I said earlier, we have not been innovative because we have not looked at other alternative ways of trying to increase our revenue or to tap into our net. I think I quite remember some time ago when the NDC government, you realize that those people that were into these, I think the electrical kind of sector, those who install electricity, that is electrical wiring, our various homes and other places, they group them together for them to able to have, that is a kind of a group. Then they identify them. So if there's an opportunity for you to tax them, you can tax them. Roland, for now, when you get into the system of our economy, you talk about what do we call them, POP guys and those people that when you go to Accra, you see these people, have them been taxed? Do we have a system to capture all these people? And that is one thing that bothers us a lot. So we have not been innovative enough to ensure that we tap into some of these sources of revenue to increase our tax. Always. And I agree to lawyer Eduji about the VAT. Probably if you look at the VAT, you are paying almost about 21.99%, and that is too much. I even you've seen that there's even COVID levy, and I'm wondering why COVID levy is still in our tax structure, and that is something that we need to look at it. So I think our tax system, there's a problem with it, because we have not structured in such a way that it will accommodate or it can able to tap into areas that we have not tapped into for these taxes. So, Roland, is unfortunate, but I think the government is now being trying to listen to the IMF. But in a situation like this, I think about a week or last week, there's an increment in revenue, and revenue that is a fuel tax that is 2% or so. And look at transportation costs. So the cost of living in this country, Roland, is getting out of hand. And I think I suggest that the government has to look at other alternative way. And the timing, as I'm saying, it will not serve the government interest to come out with these VAT 15%. Because when you look at other countries, I think Portugal has introduced it, and they were having some challenges about it. And sometimes, Roland, you look about the percentage. It was like the yield levy when they were introduced. But sometimes you have to look at the percentage. The yield levy, it was so high, and then later they have to drop it gradually. Even if you can introduce it, assuming you want to introduce it to offset some of these energy debt, which is more than $1 billion in debt books, then probably you need to also consider reducing 15%. It's too much. Yeah. It's too much. And the analogy about paying, let's say if I'm paying 1,000, or let's use about the lower level, you are paying about 100 cedis a month, and at the end of the day, you are paying 21.9%. It's too much. And you know, in an economy where they practice some of these electricity, that is a VAT, you see that the economy is moving. But where we are now, I'm sorry that the economy is not moving as it is. And we have companies, especially the energy-intensive companies, will suffer for this, and it will lead to what? Inflation.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So let me just end that round with you, and then please get your device well stabilized on a platform so that I see that the pictures keep shaking. Look, the last time John Dramani Mahama had a recourse during his interaction with, is it the trade union or organized labor, as well as those Ghana Union of Traders Association, and even recounted what we always say, the tax items or line items when it comes to taxes on imported vehicles at the port, for example. And you are very much well aware of it. On the other hand, the refrain is that we need taxes and the revenue as a country. But what ideally should we be doing to make sure that we don't overburden the citizenry? Lawyer Boabing, as someone.
See, Roland, if I were a voter, I've been voting for the past 4 elections, and I'm about to vote now. whatever ADG was saying would not give me any confidence or trust.
Why not?
Because ADG is supposed to be, they say that they are preparing themselves for government because the polls say they are winning. He spent all the time traducing the MPP's policies without giving us a single policy on the way forward, because they are going to do the same thing.
How do you come to
If
that conclusion?
you want to take Ghana back for the benefit of Ghanaians, what did Fitch say? Fitch says that the so-called poll by Fitch, which was running last week.
That is their official poll.
Oh, it's official
And
poll.
we've
It
been
says
using
that
their polls to do projections
very well.
since time immemorial.
Excellent. So no, I'm not.
Even the MPP has
I'm not
used
quarreling
it. I
with
remember in
polls. No,
2016.
I'm not quarreling with polls. Let's stay
No,
focused.
in fact, our
I'm not
director
quarreling with
communication
polls.
of the MPP,
Let's
he
stay focused.
actually
I love
praised-
polls.
He actually
I love polls.
Fish work. So
I love
don't
polls.
know.
So
Now
Fitch says
proceed.
that the NDC will win, and that for what reason? That the economy is bad. Listen, they are saying that the economy is bad. Foreign inflows are poor. Cost of living is rising. The cedi is tanking. And because of that, Ghanaians will vote for NDC. Then in the same report, they go ahead to say that the NDC will do exactly what the IMF wants it to do. That is the value of having the NDC in charge. They will do exactly what the IMF.
We have a
Read
pact
the
with
report.
IMF. I have read
the report. It says that.
But we have a pact with the IMF.
Well, that's the point, is that even beyond the pact, there are things you can do if you know what to do. For example, Alan Martin is going to implement the Great Transformational Plan alongside the IMF pact, because otherwise there will be no growth polls. Otherwise, there will be no fulcrum where you can switch the economy to production if you wait for the IMF. Because the IMF is based on taxes. So if Fitch is comfortable that your mama is coming and that he's coming to do taxes, then the one single tax about VAT on electricity that the AGG is screaming and yelling about will not make any difference, because the NDC can't tell us what they are going to do otherwise. And the IMF is comfortable that the NDC will do the same thing, the work of the IMF. We are in a situation where the bottom line is that we need to disregard the conventional. We need to be bold about the future. Mr. Martin's thesis in University of Ghana was on the economy, transforming the economy of Ghana. He traced it from 1911 to, and he wrote in 1973, first degree. There was no change since 1911. In 2014, he was talking about transformation when he ran for the presidency. He is still talking transformation. The language is the same. He was one of those who helped Mandela transform the South African economy.
And he didn't help the Kufuor-led government.
It is part of his initiatives which has sustained the
Kufuor.
Yes, it is part.
He was part of the economic management, wasn't he?
And he's
was
very
he
proud.
part of the economic management?
Yes, he was. Okay. And he's very proud of the time he spent in government.
And it led us to IMF.
He's very proud of the time he spent in government, because the initiatives he brought into government, if fully executed all the way and backed by resources, would have transformed this economy. When he was ambassador to America, he managed to encourage Ghanaians to come in and find oil in commercial quantity, something we had been doing for years under Rawlings and all that. We couldn't. When he became Minister of Trade and Industry in the Kufuor regime, he developed 4 growth poles, entirely localized, which would have divested our dependence on cocoa, which is only giving us 2 billion a year, even that we borrow the money and come and squander it before we look for exchange to go and pay back. It's a misalignment that we are still enforcing. In the current situation, and the PSIs, look at garments. Garments is contributing in excess of 3 billion cedis to this economic stability.
It's in the...
Exactly. The point, you asked me what he did for them. And I'm saying that his initiatives are those that are holding the economy afloat. He's the one who has tried to drive capital accumulation through policy and to ensure that that capital is invested in building Ghanaians.
We're at the crossroads currently. We have a working structure with the IMF.
Yes.
Whether it is the Movement for Change and its allies.
Yes.
Or it is the NDC, or it is the MPP that is retained, or it is Chede or Nana Bediakun's independent movement, so to speak. We need to continue with this pact with the IMF. Now, the reality is that the IMF, based on its latest document, says this has to be pushed through, looking at what our expenditures are and what we think we can receive by way of the receipts or revenues.
That is
so
the difference.
What will
that is the difference.
The movement of change do if they win the election?
The IMF
relative to this.
The IMF wants you to reduce your expenditure and pay your debts. That's all the IMF is after. Pay your debts. They loan you money, pay your debts. So how do you pay your debts? You reduce the debts in the first place. So you control government expenditure. The GTP is committed to controlling government expenditure. I've already told you, lean government, rationalization of the public sector, and it will reduce the cost of delivering government services tremendously. The second part is to increase your revenue. You can increase your revenue by not necessarily taxing electricity. As far as the IMF is concerned, if you can give them a credible plan, and as Dr. Free was saying, Lanchemati is going to abolish the COVID levy. He's going to abolish sole sourcing. All the sources of corruption that are going on, that are not helping us, he's going to abolish them, and he's going to put in place a tax regime that supports production. A tax regime that enables Ghanaians. We will invest in Ghanaian youth to enable them produce so that the government can tax properly.
I think I've loved the submission. So what will the NDC do differently if they should win relative to this? Because we have a pact with the IMF. Eduji.
Like you rightly pointed out, he's a lawyer. At the basic in the law school, we are told something, pacta sunt servanda, the sanctity of contracts. Once a government enters into a contract, governance is continued. What you do is to negotiate for favorable terms. We are saying that this administration went into the IMF in an ambulance and so therefore could not get those favorable terms. You recall how even releases from the IMF under this program were contingent upon us meeting our debt obligation, debt restructuring obligations with all these entities. We are not going to have that difficult situation. So it's always better you readjust the numbers. But you see, even more critical, we have stated, for instance, and Mr. Lanchemanchin agrees, that an economy that is going to run 24 hours is an economy that has the potential to revive itself. And Mr. Lanchemanchin concedes that is innovative.
No, what
he says
said,
that...
No, let me confirm that. No,
when I'm done, you can just come in.
Your 24-hour economy has no basis. It is useful only if it has an industrial basis.
So at least he says that it will be a very useful initiative.
If
for
you
me,
have the production behind it.
That's even important for me.
Okay, so it will be useful only if they have the production behind it.
And that is what the GTP has.
Please continue. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, we have indicated that, look, importers in this country, because of the stability of the city issues, they pass it on to you and I.
The consumers.
The consumers. Because the foreign differential losses, they are not going to take it as their own. So H.E. John Dramani Mahama had given a clear policy directive that with the benefit of political power, he is going to ensure that importers will have the benefit of a fixed rate. Now, the essence of the fixed rate is this. It gives you the opportunity to plan, to predict, so that if in the next 6 months, you are going to use, say, $1 to, say, 9 Ghana cedi, that helps you to plan within that 6 months or 3 months. Now, why you notice that inflation, they claim, is going down, but the prices of items are going up, is that the market is not responding to what government is doing. If you recall, about a month ago, the finance minister made the point that with the IMF inflows, the Ghana cedi was going to be stable. Because there is no credibility with the current managers of the economy, the market doesn't respond to what they say. And so, a government that introduces gold for oil is now seeing the highest oil at the pumps. What it tells you is that what they say is diametrically opposite to what the market is responding to. And that is why I want to say this, and I say this, that the experience of John Dramani Mahama, having been president before, please, the challenges and how to surmount those challenges, he is coming on board with that rich experience. Regrettably, my learned senior Lanchemanchin, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, regrettably, do not have that benefit. And the danger we find ourselves in, experimenting with an inexperienced person becomes problematic. Inexperience is such a very expensive thing that Ghanaians cannot afford. Going to bring a clueless driver's mate or an apprentice who jumps ship will be problematic for the economy.
We are very
No, you are the fruit of the same poisonous tree.
While there's the argument about Alan Chamante and Yabwabia Samoa being from the same wineskin, just portraying to be new, so to speak, the reality is that we seem to be in a catch-22 situation. With your experience and then where we are currently, I mean, shouldn't the government be cutting its coat according to its size, reducing expenditure drastically to at least prevent itself from still positing to the IMF that, well, there was resistance, but if we have a leeway, we could have some of these tax handles brought back? Amid even transport fares being shoved in our faces to be increased by the operators subsequently. You have 3 minutes on this, sir. 3 minutes on this.
Yes, I agree to you about the government need to consider the expenditure of the government. But unfortunately, during coming to this, that is the election that is ahead, it will be very difficult. That is what we have been experiencing all this while. I
don't understand. You're saying the government of the day cannot reduce its expenditure because it's an election year. Is that what you're saying, Dr. Friye?
Yes, that is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying, that it will be very difficult because the government want to ensure that all the promises that give to the citizens will be fulfilled. So probably they will not reduce expenditure. That is my view on the currently, if we advise government to reduce expenditure. It will be very difficult because politically, they need to ensure that all the promises are being fulfilled, and they will not go into that. Maybe after whoever wins the elections, they will go into it. We have not been controlling our expenditure, and again, also not looked at our tax structure, our tax.
Hello.
The internet.
Okay. It's the internet then. Okay, please go ahead.
And it is very, very sad that some.
I'm sure he's getting calls. That's why there's been interference to his network. So now transport fares are coming. Yes. Just 2 minutes on this.
So very, very quickly.
Okay, he's back.
The economy that we are in.
Okay.
I'm sorry that there won't be any much improvement in what we are looking at, because it becomes very difficult when we don't control our expenditure in this election year, and it is very, very important that we look at it as well. So, okay. Roland, I'm sorry that we might not see much in terms of our expenditure.
Dr. Friye, let me ask you this.
That is controlling our expenditure. It won't be possible.
If anything at all, Dr. Friye,
I believe that as time goes on, maybe after the election, any government that comes to power need to look at it very, very critically in terms of our tax, in terms of controlling our expenditure, and also the laws are there. The laws are there to ensure that we go and control our expenditure. But practically, when you look at the way things are going, sometimes it doesn't work as it's expected.
Transport fares, etc., and then all this. You want to read something? I'll go with it.
This was published or released into the public domain in January of 2023. Yes. And under it, you have established fixed exchange rate for a period not exceeding
which page are you reading?
Page 16. Low inflation. Under 1.5, low inflation, page 16. Roman numeral 3. Roman numeral 2. It says fixed. These are tax measures to reduce...
Paragraph 1.5.
Yes, paragraph 1.5. Roman numeral 2 says you fix the foreign exchange rate for strategic commodities so that those commodities can come in without the stress of cedi depreciation.
It's the same thing people are talking about.
We have said it in January 2023. Now that's what everybody says. But more important,
no, not Dr. everybody. Barnier is talking about
what Dr. Friye is saying. Alan has said he will change the structure of our tax system to favor to favor direct taxes. The dependence on indirect taxes, which is driving up port duties and those things in the ports, is not helping. It's rather driving inflation, imported inflation, into our system because we don't produce much here. So he is saying that we are going to reverse it. You will get the inputs for industrial transformation without those punitive taxes in the ports. But once you enable businesses to produce and expand the basket, you get more people being employed, you get the businesses making money, you can improve your corporate taxes, you can improve your income taxes. These are direct taxes, and you get it from enhancing production. So taxes for Alan Chemate under the GTP are going to be two-pronged. The fix in the ports and then change it around. Reduce.
So you and NDC, you are one.
No, we are not
taxes.
one. No, we are not
on
one.
The taxes. I'm not saying.
No, on the taxes, we are not even one.
Okay.
We are saying that we will change the tax structure.
A very simple question.
Yes.
If you have to rate the Akufo-Addo government over the period when they took office up to now, the way they've managed the economy on a 0 to 10 scale, what would it be?
It's about their inability to transform. It's as simple as that.
Give me 0 to 10.
No, I'm not in a position to give 0 to 10 because it's about the inability to transform.
We have transport fares. It's just been halted. We are